What's up? Welcome in. Fresh off of vacation for me. Based on some text messages, sounds like John's has been living the exact opposite life of that. But good to be back.
Yeah,
Hoge Jahns here with you. What's going on, buddy?
it wouldn't be like travel season for Adam Johns without a Johns family bout with the old stomach bug. So as the combine nears and Adam Johns prepares to leave home,
your family has more stomach bugs than anyone I know.
At least once a year. At least once a year. That's part of having kids. As I explained to my oldest, now 11, I go, dude, you got to get better at washing your hands.
Yeah.
Like,
Grow up, kid.
Like you just going into the bathroom and then I just hear, shh, that's it. Little rinse, maybe no soap at all. Like, that's a problem, man. We're getting sick around here.
Get some hand sanitizer going around the house. Come on, buddy. Yeah,
Never.
It's well, sorry you're going through that again. But
you look good. You got some sun in that skin, it looks like.
Yeah, a little bit. We had it's a little risky going to Florida this time of year. You never know. I mean, you and I have been at owners meetings where it's like cold, and that's the end of March. So we lucked out. It rained one day, but otherwise we're good. We were only there for 4 days. Just it's hard to sneak away now. The NFL with this 2-week window between the Super Bowl and the Combine. It's like you got to take advantage of it for a few days. So
yeah, you do.
We did the long President's Day weekend thing, and yeah, it was nice just to get some vitamin D in the old skin a little bit, because with these dry Chicago winters, although it hasn't been that bad this year. Famous last words.
In the middle of this fight, we actually snuck away to Wisconsin for a night.
There you go.
For a little tubing, not exactly getting vitamin D, maybe some wind burn as you go down a hill, but my boys definitely enjoyed that. You got to get away when you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but right back to work. And by the way, nice job last week with the round table. Seemed like our listeners really enjoyed that. So if you missed it, make sure you go check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on everywhere where our podcasts exist. Make sure you are rating and reviewing the pod along the way. And as we like to say, most importantly, tell a friend. Check out the YouTube page as well. That thing's been growing, and I know a lot of people like to enjoy the podcast that way, so it's there for you as well on YouTube, the Hoge Jahns channel. We have a fun episode today with a special guest, the doctor that works with Justin Fields and a number of other Bears players, both in season and during the offseason, just working on, sports performance, essentially, and getting these athletes in the best shape that they can be in to withstand injury and fight through pain. Dr. Michael Risher is on the pod today. He's going to join us here in a few minutes, and it should be a very interesting conversation, especially when it comes to the quarterback, because he knows him very, very well. Before we jump into that, though, I did want to address some of the offseason stuff. I know you have a story up on The Athletic with some interesting sort of setting the table for possible trades, moves that we could be seeing here in the next month or so.
Well, you finally have some finality, some conclusion to a lot of the storylines. Head coaches have been hired in Indianapolis. You have the Raiders just releasing Derek Carr officially after benching him this season. So now you have a clearer picture of what the trade market can be. And the Combine is next week, so conversations are going to get really busy for Ryan Poles, potentially Ian Cunningham as well, as teams feel out what the price is for number one, as teams feel out what the competition is to get a quarterback. On the Roundtable podcast last week, Adam, we kind of rolled our eyes at the conversation about trading Justin Fields, and I think we could still do that. I still think it's ludicrous. That's the word I used last week. But, a lot of teams are going to trade up for their quarterback this year. And the only reason why the Bears can't trade back is because they have Justin Fields, who we're going to talk about here soon.
Yeah, I realize that there's some time to fill here in the offseason, and NFL conversation dominates it. But the amount of words and writing that's been wasted on this trading Justin Fields, because it's unbelievable. It's like every day on ESPN, there's something, and it's like, really, we're doing this again?
Why are we comparing Bryce Young to Steph Curry? Like, was that like part of the conversation I
Oh
saw
yeah, I saw
on
that.
Twitter today? Like, I get it, maybe is like outstanding athletes, but Bryce Young has not played a single snap in the NFL yet, and like Davidson isn't exactly like Alabama.
No, 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 no. Yeah. He's a no. Bryce Young is a combination of Patrick Mahomes and Steph Curry. I think that's a perfectly fair, reasonable
Like they
conversation
had a
for
baby and it's Bryce Young.
little Michael Jordan in there too. I think how else can we hype this guy up? And by the way, he is really, really good. But come on. There's plenty of time for that. I'm sure it's not going to go away. But the quarterback that Bears do have, and the one that I know you and I think they still will have going into next season, is Justin Fields. He is still working his butt off, as he always is, which is something that you don't always know until you get the guy in your building. And there's no question about that with Justin Fields. And one of the guys had spent so much time working with Justin, not only during the offseason, not only this time of year, but also in season as well, is Dr. Michael Risher. And he was kind enough to join us on the podcast today. So let's jump right in with that interview with somebody who really knows Justin well. And I think Bears fans are really going to find some of this stuff interesting. All right, we have a special guest today we're excited to talk to. You may have seen him on Twitter a little bit, perhaps defending QB1 recently. His name is Dr. Michael Risher. He is the owner of the Rehab Lab, chiropractor, pro sports performance doc, and works with a number of Bears players in the offseason, even in season, most notably Justin Fields. Dr. Risher, thanks for jumping on with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is a lot of fun. I watch you guys. I read the stuff that you put out. So, a lot of fun to be on here. Really excited.
Now, Dr. Mike, can we call you Dr. Mike? I know some of the players call you Dr. Mike. Is that cool on Hoge Jahns?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you guys want to call me. As long as my name's in there somewhere, go for it.
All right. Well, thanks, Dr. Mike. Can we start with, let's start with number one. I've seen a bunch of your videos, especially throughout the course of this season. So one, like, how did that all start? And two, like, what's that like during the season, and how much has changed maybe in his 2 seasons with you?
Yeah. So, just with Justin, we started working his rookie year. Riley Ridley introduced us, so that was a lot of fun. And off season, he bounces around quite a bit. So whenever he's in town, we're working. I went out to Atlanta with him and Mooney last year for a week, which was a blast. But everybody wants to get south at least a little bit for the off season. So he's down there bouncing around a little bit. But in season and when he's back here, we're working a lot. I know there have been some things that people question work ethic, and I 100% guarantee there is no work ethic issue. Like when he's here, we're working. A lot of body work, a lot of recovery, and then we kind of take little pieces of his game that he wants to improve on and do that athletically. Obviously, I'm not a quarterback coach, so I'm not telling him technique and stuff, but we look at the physical piece and, see where he can improve on the margins, where he can improve as an athlete, if you can believe that, he can improve as an athlete. But that's kind of what we do in season, 5-6 days a week. Sometimes, if there's a bye week, we get a little bit less, but it's really often just making sure the body's tuned up, ready to go. But yeah, it's an absolute blast. He's a ton of fun to work with.
If people want to check out because you put some of the videos out on Twitter, some of the things you guys work on is pretty cool. And I should have mentioned your Twitter account off the top. It's at Dr. Risher, spelled like Fisher, but with an R in there, at Dr. Risher. And they can see some of that stuff. I'm curious, as Justin went through this season, and obviously everybody could see on TV or if they're at the games, some of the beatings he was taking within games, and then the shift the Bears made offensively, which really unlocked the offense to get him on the move more and run more. That also exposed him to some more hits as the season went on. I'm just wondering where you factor in on all that when you're working 5-6 days a week in season with them and trying to obviously keep him healthy, probably not try to overdo it too much, but I'm sure you're also working on things that are also with his health in mind to protect him from injuries. Like, where do you come in on all that? What are the types of things you work on?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what we do is like tissue pliability and his ability to absorb force. So, injury only happens when the demand placed on your body is more than what you can handle. So the more we prepare him, the more range of motion he has, the more pliable his tissues are, and the stronger he is. That is all protective against injury. Football is a contact sport, so you can't prevent it, but there's a ton of like thoracic spine mobility, hip mobility, shoulder mobility. We kind of hit all the ranges of motion, try to improve that where we can. And then we train him in those ranges. So in season, he's doing a ton with the team. Our training isn't as much. We kind of pick and choose the small places. But every week I'm watching the game and it's like, all right, we're going to have a little bit to work on from that. But he does a great job protecting himself. The biggest, thing that I noticed from year 1 to year 2 was that he isn't trying to make the Superman play. So he understands when he has to get down and he doesn't want to take those hits. So he does a really good job protecting himself. And he's, from what I see watching and from what we had this year, he wasn't really putting himself at a ton of extra risk running the ball. There's nothing you could do about that, but he was, about his need to run the ball, but he was doing a really good job protecting himself this year, and a better job this year than he did his rookie year. So I was really happy about that. And if you listen to his interviews, he's his preservation, his career preservation is at the front of his mind as he's playing some of these games.
Kind of beyond it, like from your medical background or your expertise, like what are you specifically watching, like as he plays? You mentioned him avoiding injuries, but I'm curious, maybe even beyond that, like the way he's moving, like the grimace in his face, the way he, like, are different slides better for him, or are you watching how he's running or lowering his shoulder, like just his movements? Can you take us through that?
Yeah. So I like looking for movement quality. You can, or I can tell if there's something that might be, a little bit banged up, and I'll be watching that area beforehand, just to make sure that it's not affecting him. Most of the time I watch and there's nothing that shows up on film that's like, oh, wow, he really took a beating there. There's some hits where I'm like, you're going to be a little sore. We're probably gonna have to work on that tomorrow, take a shot to the hip or whatever, but that just happens in football. So I'm looking for movement quality. He's not slowing down during the games, which is, the big thing is he's still able to hit the top speed. And then, I'm really watching, like, does he feel comfortable? And there weren't really any times where I saw him feel uncomfortable physically. Maybe, after 1 or 2 hits, but most of those weren't on his runs. Like he's sliding, he's not diving head first. He's, he's sliding like he's sliding into second base, and he's getting out of bounds. So, just a lot of movement quality and kind of confidence is more what I look for. And then, obviously after the game, he'll tell me, what's feeling sore, what's not. And a lot of it is more soreness from the amount of running that he had to do, versus actually taking the hits.
One thing you hear often when you talk to players that play against Justin, they're sort of caught off guard by how big and strong he is. And I remember having that same reaction both when I saw him in college, but also when he arrived at the Bears after they drafted him. I remember that first rookie minicamp, which sounds like that was right around the time you started working with him. And I remember just like, even compared to the other rookies that were out there on the field, it was like, wow, this guy's big. He's built well. Can you give us an idea of, it sounds obvious, but in what ways does that help him withstand some of the things he's going through the season? Because he is just a big, strong quarterback when he's running with the football.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that you notice is like his legs are massive. He's just got tree trunks for legs, and you don't realize, but like he's 230 pounds, and that's not a small dude, and it's not a small dude to bring down. So like his ability to absorb force is really high. He moves really well for that size too, which is, I think, the most impressive part. A lot of guys, as they start putting on that muscle, they start losing the ability to move well. You've seen certain players bulk up and then all of a sudden they get more injured because they're more stiff, or they slow down because they bulked up so much. And he does a really good job maintaining his movement, even though he's so big. And he's been that size. Like, I talked to him once, and I think he was like 220 coming out of high school. So he's been able to play at this size for a long time. It's not like he hit a random growth spurt in college and then suddenly developed. Like, he's been playing at this size for a long time now. So he's really in tune with his body and where he has a ton of force. It's got to be just miserable trying to take him down, though. Like, if you do not get a good grip on him, you're not going to be able to bring him down. And you saw some of the plays that he broke where you thought he was sacked in the backfield, but because his legs are so strong, he was able to drive out of it. So I think the biggest thing is, like, his legs are unbelievably powerful.
Speaking of those legs, one thing that came up this season is, I forget which game exactly, but he described them as heavy, probably because of the workload and everything he was doing in games. I know he dealt with some dehydration things down in Atlanta, but like the heaviness, how did you guys address that so he could still keep doing what he was doing that nobody else can really do as a quarterback in this league?
Yeah. And I think the Bears staff gets a ton of credit here. They do a great job managing load. They have GPS trackers on the guys. They know what % of their top speed they've hit during the week, as well as in game. So they're managing and they're monitoring, running load. And a lot of it is just managing, fatigue as the season goes. A lot of people think, like, when you're lifting weights, that's where, the CNS fatigue sets in. But if your load is really high running, which it was for him, and it kind of just ramped in the middle of the season, he just hit a little bit of, we just monitored his training volume a little bit, and I didn't have to do a ton there. I just kind of did a bunch of the recovery stuff, but the training staff just monitored his training volume in week. Wasn't shut down or anything, but they just made sure that his load was appropriate and that he was getting the proper recovery. This year we talked about it, and we're going to change the timing of some of our sessions just to kind of, maximize his recovery and change the CNS load just slightly. So we're kind of in season, we shifted our timing just a little bit, and next season, we're gonna do even more to make sure that none of that comes up as his load stays high. Because when you're an athlete like that, he might not be running for 1,000 yards every year, but he's going to have to run a little bit. And so we're making sure that, like, he and I are on the same page, and his training staff is phenomenal there. So they're doing a great job managing load.
As you've started to work with more and more NFL players, do you pay attention to, I guess, other quarterbacks or other players around the league? And, like, when you see the season Jalen Hurts was having and the jump he made from, where he was a year ago, where he was running a lot and then kind of became more of a passer this year. Are you studying that type of stuff to see how that might apply to your clients?
Absolutely. And I think just the progression and, feeling more comfortable in what you're asked to do. But I look at all of these players, and I look at all the top quarterbacks that are, MVP candidates leading their teams in the playoffs. And I look at what Justin has, and I'm like, there is literally nothing that these quarterbacks do that Justin can't do. All the off-platform stuff, like, physically, it's all there. And it's, a lot of it is him getting comfortable in the offense. And you saw it, start to materialize mid-season, where it's like all of a sudden something starts to click. And we talk about the flow state a lot. Like, the team started to get into a group flow, and that was where you really saw it start to explode. Like, the connection with the teammates, the chemistry with the teammates, like, that all started to materialize on top of the physical piece. And that's where, the magic really happened. So I think second year in this system, third year with Mooney, second year with Claypool, like, all of these things are going to start to stack, where the physical piece is never going to be an issue. There's not a single thing that guys in the league that can do that he can't do. And, the better connection he has, the more the roster is built, there's been a lot of turnover, like, all of that stuff starts to come into play. And you saw the same thing with Jalen Hurts. You saw the same thing with Josh Allen. Like, quarterback doesn't happen like that. You don't, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, right? And even he sat for a year, like, you're not coming out and being an MVP your first year, especially if you're not drafted into a good situation. So I'm super, super optimistic, and I've seen a ton of growth from him mentally and even physically. So he's, really set up well for this next year, I think.
Can we continue that conversation? Like, I'm curious, in your 2 years working with him, like his appetite for greatness. He's working with you, beyond working with the Bears, 5 times a week, 5, 6 times a week. What have you learned about that personality? What have you learned about that drive to really be great as you work, one-on-one with him?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about some of his goals, and obviously when you ask him, it's like he wants to win. And that's number one goal is he just wants to win. He wants to win a Super Bowl. Like that's the most important thing. But along the way, there are personal things that he has to accomplish in order for that to happen. He has to play well in order for that to happen. So we kind of looked at some of those goals that he had, and then are the things that you're doing aligning with those goals? So, I mean, it's whatever, 8:00 on a Wednesday night, mid-season. He's already had a full day at practice. He's getting treatment and watching film. And it's like, dude, you already had however many hours of meetings, and he's going through film on his own. Like there's so much stuff that you don't see that he does. Like he is one of the most locked in people that I have ever met. And the things that he focuses on are the right things. It's not like he's in there just kind of, spinning the wheels and doing stuff just to do stuff, just to say that he's checking that box. Like he's actually learning. He's actually doing all the right things that are progressing him. And so, yes, it's a lot on the coaches. Yes, it's a lot on the team around him. Like those are all great, but his appetite for greatness is wild. Yes, they have the number 1 overall pick, but he's pissed that they lost so many games. He's pissed that they, weren't able to win. And he's definitely taken that into this next season.
That's the part that kind of blows my mind when people talk about the idea of trading him away and drafting another unknown quarterback as good as these prospects might be, because what you're talking about right there is the part that teams don't really know until they get them in the building. They can do all the research and talk to all the coaches they want, but there's very few instances where though they're getting the 100% truth or really knowing the kid until they actually get in there. And it just really does seem, and you're here talking about it as so many others have as well, just the work ethic that the Bears know they have in this kid. So I find like the idea of getting rid of that and replacing it with an unknown is the part that's just so scary in the NFL that I wouldn't give that away.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't trade Justin for, it would, in my opinion, it would be done. I think Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, they all have their good qualities. They're all going to be, good quarterbacks in this league, hopefully. But like, to me, Justin's a known thing. Like you have seen his ability to run. You've seen his ability to put up points. I've been a Bears fan my whole life, and I've never seen an offense look this potent. And like, that's exciting. And I know the city's excited about it, but he's, taking all the right steps outside of that. I would challenge you to find any other quarterback in the league that was back in the weight room 2-3 days after the season ended. Like I called him and he texted me back. He's like, let me get this workout in real quick and I'll call you after. And like, it's like, you're not taking time off. And he obviously did to let his body recover, but he's so locked in that he's, still getting work in 2-3 days after the season. He's it. There's not much more intangible wise. There's not much more work ethic wise that you could ever ask of a player.
You also work with Darnell Mooney extensively. You work with a lot of the Bears receivers, actually, some of the defensive backs, Eddie Jackson. Just like maybe mechanically speaking, I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Like, how is working with them, like their skill sets, what they need to do in the field, different than working with Justin and what you do for them?
Yeah, totally. So with Mooney specifically, he's obviously got a different body type. So we do, just a ton of the recovery, a ton of the injury prevention, but it's more, just, fortifying him. And then Mooney's big on improving on the margins. So, we do a lot of hand-eye coordination stuff, a lot of catching stuff. And he's in there, guys give him weird looks because he's in there doing, these eye training drills. and making sure that every single day he's improving some small thing about his game. Whether it's, the one-handed catches, whether it's we work a lot with difficult things that he's never done before. And so like we're challenging his brain to find new ways to accomplish tasks. And that's a lot with Mooney, because it's not like, it's not like he's taking a hit every single play. It's not like he, is getting tackled by defensive linemen all the time. It's much more out in space. So we're doing, all the stuff to prepare his body for that contact, but he's a lot more of the mental piece. And again, when you talk about someone that's locked in, like that dude is absolutely locked in. I asked him once, I was like, hey, do you mind if we post this? He's like, no, I don't want everybody to know just yet. They're going to see how hard we're working. But so like, there's a lot of stuff that Mooney does behind the scenes. And then Eddie, it's a similar thing. But he's doing a lot more change of direction. His is all back pedal, side to side, and then breaking up. And so we're doing a lot more work, change of direction with him. And so each player, each position has different demands. And so while we kind of have the same, cupping, scraping, needling, all the soft tissue stuff, the areas that guys need work on is different based on the demands placed on their body. So that's kind of the big thing. And then, every athlete is slightly different. So one might have really loose hips, one might have really tight hips, and you're just trying to find places that they can improve their game. What control can they gain? What range can they gain to, make them better on the field and just fully access their talent? Like I'm not a talent trainer, but if I can help them more fully access the talent, that's my goal.
I'm curious hearing you talk about the eyes, and I've certainly seen wide receivers. It's all about hand-eye discipline and trying to train the eyes, as you put it. Is there anything that Justin or quarterbacks can do from that standpoint? Because I know like a lot of the talk with Justin about improving, and he's talked about this too, just his, the timing and getting through his progressions. A lot of that is obviously just getting comfortable with the offense and more experience and understanding the coverages and much more X's and O's and football-y stuff. But is there anything that you can actually work on him from an eye training standpoint that actually help him, or is that just more for the wide receivers?
We do a little bit of that, just his ability to track certain objects. That's not as big. What he and I kind of work on in that realm is more his ability to get into the flow state and just certain positive reinforcements, certain pregame, thought patterns, certain visualizations, and then, the breathing. And so there was one when he was mic'd up, you heard him talking to himself, like it's a good day to be great and all that stuff. And so those sorts of things start to actually trigger your brain to release neurochemicals and neurotransmitters that get you into this flow state better. And so you can see when he turns it on and when he's locked in, you can see that everything's just flowing. And so the biggest piece that we can get to is almost that time dilation where your brain slows everything down and you process things at a much higher pace. We're getting rid of certain, it's called hypofrontality. You're getting rid of a certain part of your brain and you actually using less of your brain so that you're more focused on what you have to be focused on and less focused on the outside noise. So that's more of the direction we go, because a lot of the stuff that he does, it's going to be, timing, it's going to be understanding the defenses, and it's going to be, understanding his players. So that's kind of the direction that we go versus the true, like Mooney's got to catch the ball. So we have to work on his eyes tracking the ball a little bit more.
So that's super interesting to me, because one of the things I've noticed about Justin, it sounds like there might actually be some science behind this, is when he breaks off, like say things are not going well for a little bit, he breaks off a big run, slides, points, first down, and you just see some of that. I was calling it swagger during the season. That sounds like that flow state that you're talking about, though, that maybe that there actually is some science behind that he needs certain plays like that to get him going.
Totally. There's dopamine is a huge piece of that. And so you rip off a big play and that just starts everything setting in motion. Someone makes a big catch. There's individual flow that Justin gets into. He ripped off I think it was a touchdown run against Miami where he was about to throw to Darnell and then decided mid throw that he was going to tuck it and still score, right? And so that's something where, his brain's just processing so quickly that he didn't even have to think about it. His body just responded and did it. And so, like the big plays and the success builds that up. And so the more success you have, the more success you're going to continue to have.
Getting through a season is going to be, well, a topic really until he does it. So maybe from like your point of view, like what don't we get about injury prevention training and the stuff that you guys do to help these athletes prevent injuries, like when they're not even playing?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing would be, injury prevention is touted by a lot of people. And I don't know if you guys know Dr. Mason West. We've talked about this a lot. Injury prevention is a myth. It's all about risk mitigation. And so we can do things to the body to mitigate risk. But, if any play that you get sacked, you're going to have a 300-pound dude landing on top of you. And there's always that potential, to get injured. And so we prepare the body, we prepare the tissues to take more contact, to take more load, to be able to absorb more force. Some things are just kind of freak plays, but we learn what the weak parts are. We learn like, hey, this ankle was bothering you, whatever was like feeling something. And then we increase the load on that joint, and then that joint is more protected. So, things that were an issue his rookie year were not an issue this year. Things that are an issue this year, I don't think will be an issue next year, because we're going to say, all right, this was a weak area for us. Let's make sure we increase the training load on that and prepare the tissues better for, the physical sport that football is. So that's kind of what it is like, you don't know, you can kind of look at movement patterns and see what the weak areas are going to be, but until you start to feel something, you don't know that was a weak area. Now that it's been exposed, we can train it.
So those listening, or I should say watching on YouTube, can see the David Montgomery jersey behind you that you have on display. Now you're a Bears fan too. So is this part of a campaign to bring him back next year? Because he's kind of in flux right now.
I love Dave. I talked to him the other day. He's doing great. He was one of the first Bears guys that I worked with. He and I have a special connection there, special bond. Just love Dave, would love to have him in Chicago. He's one of my favorite guys on this planet. If Ryan Poles can watch this and, see how much Dave can be an impact in the locker room, culture wise and on the field, like he's it. You talk about work ethic. You talk about everything. Dave's the whole package. Like anytime he finds a weakness in his game, he's going and hammering that until it's no longer a weakness. So I would love to have Dave back. We'll see where he goes. He's got to make the best decision for himself. But if it can happen, he's back in Chicago. I would absolutely love it.
So what type of training do you help him with to run so angry? Like.
That's something that I call, so that's something that's in a guy or it's not in a guy. And I call it it's the alpha dog versus the underdog mentality. Dave has the alpha dog mentality, right? He was picked 3rd round. There are a bunch of people that knocked on him and stuff and say, oh, you can do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And so he's more proving himself right with every single play. There's nothing to prove to anybody else. He's proving himself right every time he touches the ball. And if that's running through someone's face, that's running through someone's face. Like he's just going to do, what it takes. And he's big on, loyalty and family and all of that stuff. And so if he can do something for someone else, he's going to do that on the field. Again, if he can take a block, or if he can make a block, if he can make a big play, if he can hit someone and set a tone, like that's what he wants to do for the team. So that's something that's, I think you either got it or not. And he's got that alpha dog mentality where, it doesn't matter what's in front of him. He's going to go after it.
I've always been curious because look, teams definitely like having control over their players and they want to be sort of in charge of everything, but the rules literally do not dictate that they can keep them in the building year round. So there's got to be, and it's not just football players, but all athletes work with personal trainers or, training outside the building. How does that work with the team? I mean, how do you earn the trust of the Bears? I guess is what I'm asking to get to the point where they understand that you're a benefit to the players that you're working with.
Yeah. That's a funny question. I don't have a ton of contact with the team, the training staff a little bit, but most of it is me reacting to what they're doing. So I'm always going to default to what the team does. Like they always have priority. But at the same time, if someone wants to get an extra however many hours of treatment in during the week, if they're already at the facility for as long as they are, the last thing they want to do is spend another 6 hours at the facility getting treatment. That's, they want to be home. They want to do stuff from the comfort of their house and a little bit more on their schedule. And so that's where I think the appeal of having someone to, come work with you falls into play. And so I think that's more of what it is. It's I always am going to default to them, whatever they're doing. And I'm more of a supplement to what they're doing versus like, oh yeah, I'm the main guy. I'm doing all of this stuff. It's like, no, I'm kind of, whatever the player needs on top of what they're getting at the facility. That's kind of where I come in.
What would you recommend for two aging sports writers / podcasters who happen to sit on their butts all day? We're actually, Hoge and I are actually in better shape than I would say than many of our colleagues. Can we put that?
I was going to say,
right,
I mean, yeah, you're a frequent Pelotoner. I'm still playing basketball regularly. We're still right. We're doing all. We are aging though. That part's accurate. Aging.
The gray hair is adding up. We're not sleeping as well as we used to. Blame the children for that, but I'm kidding. But for folks like us and everyday people, like, what would you just generally recommend for us?
Yeah, I mean, the saying that they tell us, and this is corny as all get out, but I love it, is motion is lotion. And so your body's going to feel better the more you move. So find something that's fun. If it's basketball, if it's lifting weights, if it's Peloton, if it's running. Like, I hate running, but I love, CrossFit. And so I'll go do CrossFit and I might be sore, but my body feels good. But if I go do running, I'm not going to want to exercise. So a lot of people kind of think, oh, I have to fit in this certain category for it to be exercise. It's like, no, like if you go play basketball for an hour, that's an amazing workout. And that's all the workout that you really need. And so I would say the biggest piece of anything is find something that you would enjoy doing and then just continue to do that. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do as far as, old aches and pains to make sure you can keep doing it. I love helping people that are active and want to keep doing that. But just whatever is the most fun activity for you to do physically, that's what you got to do.
And our listeners should know too, that, I mean, you're accepting patients, the rehab lab in Logan Square. If someone were to call you up and say, hey, how can you help me? What would you be telling them?
Yeah. So big thing is, we're going to get rid of old injury patterns. We're going to get you out of pain and then get you to a place where you're operating, pain-free and doing exactly what you want to do. So, people think chiropractor and they think adjustments. I do a ton of rehab, a ton of soft tissue. So, cupping, scraping, Graston, dry needling, like all of that stuff on top of the rehab exercises. We kind of put together this just full scope picture for you so that it's, it's something that you can kind of implement on your own to stay healthy. So I want to see you in here, but I want to get you out of here as fast as possible.
Cool. Thanks, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Appreciate all the insight. I mean,
I can't wait to go up to my colleagues and just to let you know, Pat Finley, motion is lotion.
Motion
Kevin Fishbay. I've been tracking your Peloton work. Motion is lotion. I'm kidding, but
no,
you gotta have fun. Some of these guys, you gotta get them up and moving. Doctor.
Absolutely. Make a little competition with all the reporters there, so you can get the most steps in, so you can do the most minutes of exercise. I love competition amongst people is, one of the best ways to get exercise going.
100%.
Well, look, back in the Bourbon 8 training camp days, we would get on the basketball court, and that would expose a lot of people real quickly. Mostly members of the media, and it was it was getting pretty ugly. Hey, Dr. Risher,
physical activities like drinking beer and eating wings, does that count?
Lots of arm action there, lots of jaw movement. So I think, you get a little bit of something.
Yes.
This has been awesome. Thanks so much, Dr. Risher. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Dr. Risher. Again, you can see some of those videos that he was talking about, some of the things he's been working on with Justin Fields, with Darnell Mooney, other players. Very interesting insight into how it all works here, and we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and last thing, I have a lot more videos on Instagram. So it's Dr.Michael Risher on Instagram. If I tweet, quite a bit, but I put all of my video and picture content on Instagram. So if you want even more, there's, more stuff over there.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Are you ready to make a New Year's resolution that you can actually keep? Our friends at Manscaped have one for you: proper hygiene. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming and experts of men's hair care removal have you covered with your much-needed resolution of feeling your best. Join the 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code ADAM23. That's ADAM23 for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to level up and fully align your hygiene routine with the most stylish and premium grooming products out there. I'm telling you, I love Manscaped, from their shirt to their boxers to the Platinum Package 4.0. The king of this package is the Lawnmower 4.0. It's a trimmer with a ceramic blade and has this technology that reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate parts. This trimmer is the perfect size. You can travel with it. Plus, it's waterproof. Do you need nose hair trimmers? They got that too with the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. This Platinum Package also comes with shampoo and conditioner, 2-in-1, body wash, deodorant. It's the complete set that you need. Manscaped also throws in a shed travel bag and anti-chafing boxer briefs as free gifts. And I'm telling you, those boxer briefs are fantastic. So take advantage of Manscaped's best valued bundle and save 20% off and free shipping with code ADAM23 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ADAM23. That's ADAM23. Time to save and shave with Manscaped.
Hey, if you're like me, you hate the hassle of trying to figure out what to wear. Who has time for that? I need clothes that are versatile, that I can wear on my shows, but also wear when I get home or out to dinner with my wife. And that's where Rhone comes in, because men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. They have the Commuter Collection, which is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man. And here's why: because Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the Commuter Collection, offering the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. You never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone Commuter Collection. The comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to your work, or hey, even 18 holes of golf, which is coming up here, golf season in Chicago. It'll be here next week, basically, and then go away for another month, but then, come back all summer, and that'll be nice. It's time to feel confident without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. I have a pair of pants from Rhone. I have a shirt that I love to wear. And it's true. I mean, if they're even slightly wrinkled, you just wear them for a little bit and the wrinkles are gone. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/Adam and use promo code Adam to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/Adam. Use code Adam. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Upgrade your closet with Rhone and use Adam to save 20% off at Rhone.com/Adam. Well, I hope our listeners found that as interesting as I think you and I did, John Z. There's just so much, as he mentioned at one point in that interview, there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that you don't always hear about, or even many times the athletes don't even want out there. Like you mentioned the part with Darnell Mooney, like, hey, can I post this video? No, I want to show it on the field. And you got to respect the privacy. So it's really interesting to hear Dr. Risher come on and just talk about some of the specifics that they work on.
This is part of the business now. Like, players have their guys. It's more than just the agent. It's their own financial advisors. It's their own chefs, their own masseuses. There's a day at Hallis Hall where a bunch of specialists always go up there. They even have a barber.
Yeah.
Lawrence Funk. Like, he's got a barbershop up at Halisol. So players have their guys, and Dr. Mike is a lot of the Bears players' guys. Does that make sense? He's their guy. He's their guy. That made sense. That made sense, right? You know what I'm saying, everybody? Yeah, that made sense.
And it all started with Riley Ridley.
Riley Ridley. Is he in the league right now?
I don't think so, but that's pretty cool because they were teammates at Georgia.
At Georgia.
With Justin and Riley.
Instant conversation, FaceTime. That's how connections work. But Justin's been working with him for a couple of years. If you look at his Instagram or Twitter, you could see Dr. Mike working extensively with Justin. A lot of different movement skills and whatnot. So pretty good stuff there for Mike.
Yeah. Well, for an off-season conversation, that's about as good as it gets. So we thank him for jumping on, and we have another kind of special, unique episode coming out later this week. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. I think we'll just leave it at that right now, unless you want to get into any of that. But it should be another fun episode later on this week on Thursday, and then the Combine's next week, and we'll be there. The Athletic will have a setup just like we did last year, and we'll get into some major draft talk and get some movement, hopefully, with some free agent rumors. The franchise tag window opened up today, so we'll learn a couple things about maybe some of the free agent targets I know Bears fans want to go after. But there's 2 weeks for that to get figured out, so it's not necessarily all going to happen here.
I don't like that. Like in the past, you would have the deadline like during the Combine. Remember that Alshon Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Like, he went from not being tagged to being tagged within 48 hours of us being in Indianapolis. So it's a little different for the teams with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones and Lamar Jackson. A lot of big names.
Well, and that's what's the Lamar Jackson thing is sort of lingering. What happens there? Is he going to get traded? And those are honestly, for as much as the Combine's about the draft, I kind of view it as more of like the free agent convention, where who is it that always gets upset about the tampering window that opens for 2 days? It's not really tampering because it's actually legal negotiation. You just can't sign the contracts. Yeah, this is the tampering window. The Combine's the tampering window,
and it's such a well-known. Like, I don't think the NFL really minds. Does it?
No, it's fun. It's
business. It creates conversation. The NFL dominates conversation in the sports world. This is part of it. It's the biggest rumor mill of all sports.
Yeah, and we love it. So we'll be down there at the Combine, as we have been from the start of this podcast. We've always done. We have moved on, though, from doing shows inside the Spring Hill Suites to at least being on Radio Row at the Combine. So, we've made it.
We got a background. We got a producer. Yeah. Adam Hoge's not going down there with 3 bags of luggage.
No, because I would bring all that equipment. Yeah, that got a little out of hand. Now Kent has to do it. So that's why we love Kent. He was all set up at the Super Bowl, all set up at the Combine, and it's part of the offseason. So be nice, though. It's been a slower offseason here with not a whole lot of movement with coaches or anything. I mean, in that ways, it's been nice. We had the Kevin Warren stuff. So things will really kick off next week. But make sure you're here on Thursday, because we are going to have another special episode. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Read all the coverage on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns, where you go to subscribe, and you can find my work at allchgo.com. Again, thanks to Dr. Michael Risher. Follow him on Twitter at Dr. Risher. Find him on Instagram as well. And we're out of here. We'll talk to you later in the week.
See ya.